I want to start, though, with Anthony Richardson, season-ending shoulder surgery, 4th overall pick in the draft, showed a lot of promise for the Colts, had a concussion early on, missed a game, then suffered that shoulder injury, the same game that they got Jonathan Taylor back. Richardson done for the year. Gardner Minshew taking over. Didn't go too well on Sunday for the Colts at Jacksonville. I picked the Colts to win that game. Didn't even cover. They got blown out. I'm curious about a couple of things. First, if Jonathan Taylor, the running back who wanted to be traded, was trying to get a long-term contract, finally got one, if he had known what was going to happen with Anthony Richardson, would he have wanted more? He's worth more this year. If they have any hope this year, it's going to come from his ability to move the chains and help soften up the defense for the passing game. Would the Colts have wanted to even sign him if this year was going to be a wasted year in the development of Anthony Richardson, or just let him leave via free agency and draft somebody else next year, or franchise tag him next year? I think it's just enough of a changed factor that it might have caused either the team or the player or both to view the situation differently. But I'm curious to know, first and foremost, would Jonathan Taylor have gone through with the contract extension if he knew Anthony Richardson was just one game away from a season-ending injury? And secondly, would the Colts have done it? Because the Colts were the ones that had to have the change of heart. They were the ones that hadn't offered Jonathan Taylor a long-term deal. They were the ones that were possibly going to follow the same pattern we saw when Edgerrin James didn't get a second contract, and before that, Marshall Faulk didn't get a second contract. So Richardson, rookie year over. He needed the playing time this year. He needed the opportunities to develop, for the game to slow down, so he'd be better next year. Now, next year, he'll still kind of be a rookie all over again. There's going to be a greater sense of urgency to accelerate his development so he gets to his ceiling even faster. What it probably does is it puts the Colts in a position where, unless he's just a flat-out superstar, 2024 or 2025, they probably don't have to give him a contract after his third season, because we're still going to be trying to figure out exactly what Anthony Richardson is going to be. But look, based on what we saw early on, there's a chance he comes back. He doesn't miss a beat. He's great right away. One of the challenges, though, stay healthy. He got hurt on a designed run. You got to protect yourself. You can't be putting your quarterback out there in the line of fire, taking those hits, getting injured. You want him to be available to play. And you don't want him to be, Macy's trying to get in, you don't want him to be injured and obviously miss the season. Colts are still alive. Gardner Minshew is good enough, and this is his opportunity to play out the rest of the year and maybe audition for someone else to be a starter, or just come back next year and be the backup, knowing there's a chance he's going to get to play again, and maybe he'll get more than, I think it was $3.5 million on a one-year contract. Next topic relates to quarterback injuries more generally. We saw 5 starters get injured on Sunday, and I made a list here of every starter that has had an injury concern this year, or currently does, or possibly was going to miss some time and we don't know quite yet. And I was trying to struggle for the right words with Josh Allen. We don't know how banged up he is or isn't. He says he's fine. He's going to practice today, but he came down hard on his right shoulder. So that's the first guy on the list. I don't know what bucket he falls into. He's technically not injured to the point where it's, time to figure out who the backup is going to be. And he hasn't been injured yet this year, but this is the one to just keep an eye on. But it's another starting quarterback, and that's why I started this list. All the starting quarterbacks for whom there has been or currently is an injury issue. Joe Burrow of the Bengals with the calf that apparently is better now, but that's diminished him, and it still continues to be a concern. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers with the Achilles tendon he's trying to come back from. Deshaun Watson with the shoulder. He said earlier today he may or may not play this weekend for the Cleveland Browns as they go to Indianapolis. Trevor Lawrence, Jaguars. He's day-to-day with that knee injury. The Jaguars have said they've got faith in C.J. Beathard if need be. The Saints are preparing to see Trevor Lawrence. We'll see if he's able to play on Thursday night. But at a minimum, it's an injury question mark for a quarterback. Ryan Tannehill of the Titans. high ankle sprain. They have a bye this week. How much time is he going to miss? We mentioned Richardson. Justin Herbert has that broken finger on his non-throwing hand that he was clearly protecting on Monday night. As he fell down, he made sure he landed in a way that the finger didn't get hit. You wonder how much he was conscious of that finger while he was playing. No snaps under center, trying to minimize any further trauma to that clearly badly injured finger. Jimmy Garoppolo may not play this weekend. Raiders quarterback, back injury. Had to go to the hospital, get tests, make sure he didn't have internal damage. Daniel Jones, he's already missed one game. Is he going to miss more? Justin Fields, he's likely going to miss this weekend's game against the Raiders. It's going to be Aiden O'Connell versus Tyson Bagent, the undrafted rookie from Shepherd University. And even though it's in West Virginia, it's like 3 hours away. West Virginia is a very broad geographic state where you can be in that far eastern panhandle and it's going to take like 7 hours to get to the other side of the state, especially since there's still a lot of back roads and windy, can't get anywhere easily except for the main arteries that go north and south and kind of east and west, kind of farther south and up near Morgantown, arteries taking you either way, Maryland, Kentucky, etc. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, Justin Fields. Derek Carr, he had that shoulder injury. He didn't miss any time, but it was a concern after that injury happened. Baker Mayfield's got a left-hand contusion. He needs stitches on a finger on his throwing hand. Matthew Stafford was banged up against the Colts a few weeks ago. He's still going, but with Stafford, it's that slow accumulation that potentially wears him down. And then Kyler Murray, who's back at practice today, but he hasn't been on a football field in 310 days since tearing his ACL last year. And I mention all those names just because it's critically important to keep your starting quarterback healthy. And there are a variety of factors that go into it. First and foremost, as I was saying earlier about Anthony Richardson, you got to keep him out of harm's way. You got to keep him from getting hit. It's basic math. The fewer times your quarterback gets hit, the more likely it is he's going to stay healthy. Flip side, the more times he gets hit, the more likely something is going to break or sprain or tear or whatever, and he's not going to be able to play. You got to coach them to stay healthy. You got to get them to turn off that instinct to go out there and deliver a hit. Remember, it was 2018. Jimmy Garoppolo tore his ACL because he decided to drop a shoulder into a Chiefs defensive back at the sideline. I remember RG3 when he was playing for the Browns, week 1 against the Eagles, dropped his shoulder and hurt himself and didn't play for a long period of time. You have to coach that out of these guys. They have to always be thinking about their own safety. Hit the deck when you need to. And don't worry about getting dragged by Joe Namath like Zach Wilson did. Hit the deck. Avoid the hit. Get rid of the ball if you can. If all else fails, take the self-sack. Avoid taking that one extra hit that could potentially cause you to miss time. Period. And the other side of it too, and Shireen and I were talking about this today on PFT Live. We see holding on almost every play. Offensive holding. And I think that offensive linemen are being coached to, above all else, keep that defensive lineman from getting to the quarterback. Do whatever you have to do. And if we hold on every play, so be it, because they're only going to call it 10% of the time. So just hold every play. If your guy is starting to beat you and you're in any way concerned he's going to get to the quarterback and put a hit on the quarterback, hold him, clutch him, grab him. It's more important to keep the quarterback healthy than it is to not give up the 10 yards, especially because they don't call it on every single play. They don't want to bog the game down. At a certain point, the fans boo the officials simply because the officials are enforcing the rules that are being broken by the team whose offensive linemen are holding every play. So hold every play if that's what's necessary to keep your quarterback from getting injured. And it has an impact on the NFL. It was week 6 of last year that Troy Vincent, the executive VP of football operations, was on ESPN defending the NFL's hair trigger calling of roughing the passer by tying quarterback availability to high ratings. I mean, completely tore down the firewall between integrity of the game and money, 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 money. High ratings, more money, better deals from the streamers, the networks, everybody. We need to have our best players available. even if players are naturally going to get hurt within the confines of the game and the rules applied as written, well, we're going to apply the rules even more aggressively to keep these quarterbacks protected. And that's what we see. Roughing the passer gets called, maybe when it shouldn't. Holding doesn't get called, maybe when it should. We've seen a reduction in the half-second head start, false start not called. Jawan Taylor screwed that up for everybody week 1. But there was an extended period of time where they just weren't calling it. They've been shamed into calling that. But that extra start, getting into the pass block set, that helps protect the quarterbacks from getting hit. And so what they're doing instead is just not calling holding. Like, we want it to look fine at the start. It's a little too conspicuous if the left tackle and or the right tackle are leaving early. So just hold the guy instead. We'll only call it 1 out of every 10 times. So bottom line is, there's a lot of quarterbacks injured. We're only a third of the way through the regular season, sort of. There's going to be some turds in primetime coming up, and the ratings are going to reflect it because there aren't going to be starting quarterbacks available, and people aren't going to be as excited about watching games where the backup is getting thrown to the wolves. Although the fact that the Browns managed to beat the 49ers with P.J. Walker, Jets managed to beat the Eagles with Zach Wilson, any given Sunday, even if the backup's in there, but there's less sizzle. It definitely is going to have an impact. And even though the game has gotten safer and safer over the past 14 years, it's a lot of quarterback injuries. Only a third of the way, asterisk, into the regular season. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.